it's really funny sometimes how time moves on, but the debates that happen are pretty much the same. And I'm finding it really interesting. And the reason why I'm doing this in English today and not in German, I will do a German video, but I want to do this in English first, because it's really interesting to see the progress, or to see how topics come up in different countries at different times, and they come to the fore for different reasons. But one of the topics that it's definitely coming to the fore now, even though in Germany I'm seeing, even though it's been something that's been talked about in the US a lot, in the UK a lot, is once again this concept around the best person will get the job, irrespective of gender, irrespective of skin color. Nobody wants to be a quota woman. Nobody wants this, nobody wants that, because in effect it devalues their work, and so on and so forth. And I guess I have to come back to that concept again, because I want to go through this, this power pyramid and how it works. White men sit on the top, then you go down, then you go down, then you go down. And the further you go down this power pyramid, the less obviously the less power you have, but also your opportunities decrease, your access decreases. And this is general, obviously. And we know that this doesn't apply to everybody. And we know that there's people who have privilege, and when I say privilege, I mean just access, actually, to opportunity, etc. So, there are always exceptions, but the point is this, and I think this is the critical part for me, is if you sit at the top of the power pyramid, and this doesn't matter about, in this case, this doesn't matter about this particular gender and race power pyramid, but just in general, you can rarely identify with the problems of those at the bottom of this pyramid. And this goes for any company. If the pay disparity between those at the top is ridiculous, between those at the top and those at the bottom, the day-to-day issues that person faces at the bottom, the person at the top has no idea. And I'm not saying that the person at the bottom has any idea about the person at the top, but the key difference is this: the person at the bottom wields no power and can make no significant changes to that other person in this particular construct. Forget like two people randomly walking on the street. So when we keep talking about, the best person will make it there, if you're not speaking from a place of lived experience, then you don't really know what those barriers are. You don't really know what you're talking about, because you can only speak to those issues that you know and have lived. And in many cases, it's not the same to be a woman, to be trying to progress, aside from all the psychological tests, likeness tests, and all that kind of stuff, that we pick people who are like us. It's normal, everybody does it. So if all the men are at the top, they pick more people who are like them, that means that's more men. And to simplify it to just this is possible ignores the social dynamic and the systems upon which our society is built, which is a patriarchal society, which is a dominant culture society, a racist society. And once again, I'm saying this as a system, not people's behaviors. So when you look at it like that, the starting point's completely wrong. I've spoken about quotas before, and I also spoke about my evolution with my relationship to quotas. I didn't like them, but quite clearly, without them, we're not turning any keys. We're not getting any farther forward. And to poo-poo the experiences of others, to say, well, it will just happen. If it would have just happened, then why are we here? Why are we having this discussion? It's because it's not happening. It's because people, and I can say this, men and women also, it's not every woman that fights for gender equality. It's not every man that is against it, as we know. But not everybody sees the value in women contributing the way they want to in the workforce. But the fact is that not everybody has the same access. Not everybody has the same starting point. And this is the part that for me is critical. Not everybody has the same starting point. And that's the bottom line. We don't have the same starting point. So if I have to start 500 meters behind the starting line, jumping over hurdles, scrambling on the ground just to get to start, by the time you've taken off, I'm not even at the starting line yet. So with all the talent in the world, before I get to display my talent, I have to fight to get to the starting line to be seen first. This is the point. It doesn't happen automatically. Because if you're not at the starting line, you always have to fight first to be seen. And once you're seen, it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to get a place. Because maybe by the time you got to the starting line, you're so exhausted that you're trying to catch your breath when someone else is standing next to you and he's just starting and he's fresh and ready to go. So that's the real staggering point. That's the real difference. The fight is different. The starting is different. So even when you're ready to show yourself at your best, you're still competing with somebody who's already fresh. Why? Because he's been given the privileges from society of being, at the starting point, a young white male, which is very different to being a young white female, which is very different to being a young female of colour or a young black female. Because we don't start at the starting line. And depending on our race and other intersectional identities, we start back there. So before anybody wants to say, the best people make it in the room, they don't always. Because there is this fight, and you may not see that because you're thinking about, wow, it was hard for me to get to the starting line. You have no idea how hard it is for those who don't look like you to even come close to the starting line. So when you're thinking about your governance, your culture, this is why you have to do more than training. Because you have to understand, first of all, where are all these women starting? What is their starting point? And how do I close and bridge that gap to ensure that I do enough either to remove all of these barriers so they can walk to the start line, but also when they get there, how do I make sure that they're fresh and ready? Because without doing any of that, and without also educating those who get to start at the starting line, without educating them either, you won't be able to change the culture. And any initiatives, trainings, information sessions that you may be doing, workshops, books to read, ultimately they'll fall flat. Because the work around it isn't being done. Awareness, it's not the end, but it's certainly a start. And that is what we have to do. And this is why it's always unfair to say the best person will make it into the room, because there's a journey before you get to that room. So once again, as always, thank you for your time. Bye-bye.